Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. I'm going to depart from our normal topics, and I'm going to discuss something that I've been thinking about quite a bit lately, which is about running efficient organizations. You know, as you build a company, you want the company to run efficiently, and often a bunch of things that work when you're small don't work as you're getting larger. And some of these points are super frustrating to me, and it's kind of baffling how it happens. And it makes me think of putting artificial constraints on my own businesses, right? Saying, hey, listen, we shouldn't have more than this many employees because it seems to cause issues. But then, of course, you kind of need those employees. And then what are you going to do, right? And so in kind of reflecting on this, I've come up with something that I refer to as the third customer problem. And I'm going to discuss that here. Hopefully it's interesting to people. I think it's interesting if you are in a large organization and you're an employee and you see like what's going wrong and maybe ways of improving that as a manager, as a leader, etc. And also for your own companies, if you end up growing an organization beyond a certain point, it helps to fill out why you develop inefficiency and what to do about that inefficiency if it in fact is important to you. So we're going to discuss those things today. What is the concept of this? Actually, before we go on, if you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you subscribe. Thank you very much. Hit the notification bell. And if you would like help with these subjects that we talk about on this channel, which is international structuring, getting residencies and citizenships, where to move, optimizing your taxes, forming companies, doing business internationally, please reach out to me. You can book a call, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below. And you can send us send us a message through our websites, offshorecitizen.net and offshorecapitalist.com. All right. So here's kind of the basic principle, right? As a company grows, you get tremendous middle management and bureaucratic administrative bloat, right? I have people that I know who work in large organizations. I won't name them or the name of the organizations just to kind of keep that confidential. But honestly, in my experience, it's across the board. There is this narrative that I have heard a bunch amongst capitalists and things like this. And I mean, okay, look, my company, one of them is called Offshore Capitalists. So clearly I have a lot of capitalist vibes in me. This being said, there is some narrative of, oh, hey, capitalism drives this efficiency and makes things work well. And I'll hear talk from different sources about, hey, government doesn't work, corporate does. And I'm like, you know what? Corporate doesn't work that well. It's a lie. It is a lie that corporate works that well, that business works that well. If you just look in practice, most of these are dysfunctional, deranged, calcified, bloated, bureaucratic organizations that you're really surprised survive at all. True, sometimes they survive because of government bailouts and things like this, which is horrible. These zombie companies going on there. But that being said, beyond that, they tend to continue on largely due to some sort of thing that they manage to do well that perpetuates them. They basically have this abundance in one area that allows them to justify huge inefficiency across the board in others. And that doesn't seem really great. So what's going on there? What is it that seems to perpetually cause this? Because the company that can continue to grow without having this massive sandwich of waste, which tends to be much larger than the necessary components on the front lines, etc., are the exception, far from the rule. In fact, I can't think of one that I know of for sure. Maybe I would postulate that Tesla works pretty well in this regard, but I might be totally mistaken. Maybe it's a dysfunctional mess as well. So here's my theory. Normally, what have you got? You have customers, and you have shareholders, and you have a company. And what I would refer to is I would refer to these as the first two customers, right? Meaning you have the customers on the front line, obviously customers. So the whole purpose of the organization is to serve customers, right? You serve customers, you produce value, and create rewards as a result, hopefully. The second set of stakeholders, the second set of customers are the shareholders, right? In other words, the company exists to serve these two groups of people, okay? Customers and shareholders. Now, hopefully what's happening in the process is that the harmony between these two takes care of the employees, right? And so the employees are well taken care of and the organization runs well, etc. What I've noticed is that as an organization grows, you have a third group of customers that develop. And this group of customers is essentially senior management, okay? So it's this thing that happens where rather than working on serving the customers, and rather than serving the needs of the shareholders, you start to build a structure designed to serve the needs of the management. And this, I believe, is where you have this fundamental breakdown that takes place. And I'm not actually sure if somebody has good solutions, I'd love to hear it. I'm thinking about various different solutions to kind of prevent this from happening in organizations that I'm involved in. But you just kind of think, hey, listen, the senior management needs data, right? And as a result, they build up an administrative layer to gather all sorts of information. Now that information doesn't serve the customers, it doesn't really serve the shareholders, it supposedly serves the organization through serving the senior management. How well does it do that? Questionable, right? Next, well, these people want to kind of offload some things. There's too much coming at them and they have a hard time wrangling it. So what do? They build layers of management which can filter down reports, etc. And I know of cases where there's a meeting with 23 people in a room and only one person really understands the process or knows what's going on. Everybody else is like a manager who's reporting to a manager. And you have these chains of communication that are incredibly dysfunctional. They actually hamper the process of progress. They hamper decision making and forward thinking about making the right investments, about innovating, etc., etc., etc. Really what you want, ideally, and Toyota did a great job of this with the Toyota production system in their philosophy, is saying anytime something goes wrong, go immediately to be on the front line of the problem. So if a machine is breaking, let's go and look at the machine. Let's go and look at the causal chain. This is where they had the concept of the 5 whys, which is root cause analysis, that you can identify what are the root causes behind what's going on here. But going to that front line, very, very front line focused. And interestingly, I was reading some research because if you want to invest and arguably do a little bit better than the norm, you can invest in founder-run companies. And when you look at research, Bain & Company and Harvard Business Review did a bunch of studies on why is it that founder-run companies tend to outperform non-founder-run companies. And one of the reasons is this frontline approach. They understand that. And what tends to happen? Well, senior managers who've kind of worked their way up the corporate ladder don't want to be on the front lines, right? They want the prestige of, whatever else. And they build these layers between themselves and the front line. By the front line is not just the customers, it's also the employees who are actually doing the doing, right? Because there's stuff that has to get done. So do you understand the process of fulfillment? And do you understand the customers themselves? And when you build these layers of abstraction, it's very, very hard to make good quality decisions because you don't have good quality information. So ironically, the systems which are supposed to aggregate and simplify down the information to provide better senior management decision making actually ends up hampering the process of senior management making good decisions. And instead you have this garbage which develops and you get these organizations that they sit and become latent, right? That's a problem. That's a problem in these organizations. And so I think the idea is to end up in a situation where you try as much as possible not to have this third type of customer come in, because this third customer is not serving the interests of either of these other two customers. It actually creates this split there's like split loyalties that occur there. It's no longer this one-to-one favorable transaction. It's now this it's rent seeking, right? Value gets sucked out, which is largely what a lot of happens in government. Obviously, that's a really big area, right? You have this suck of value, which is unfortunate. And so, yeah, that's the basic concept, right? It's just understanding and thinking about it from the standpoint of, hey, listen, these organizations become dysfunctional because you get a third set of people who are not the customers and who are not the shareholders, who have their own self-interests, and they begin to build systems and staff around them who are designed to serve them rather than designed to serve the customers and the shareholders. And as a result, you get and it just starts to build this inertia and bloat. Would love to hear what you think about that. Do you think it's a totally off-base theory? Do you think it's got some merit to it, etc.? Let me know in the comments. And if you have some other theory, I would love to hear it. If you think there's a good solution for how to design an organization to resist these things, I would love to hear that as well. And I'm going to look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.